Welcome back to your channel Rayofhope, and today we will be covering the second lab of AWS Solution Architect, where we gonna build our VPC infrastructure. We will be deploying our private and public networks, and we will be covering few more details including EC2, VPC, and whatnot, right? And we will have the end-to-end understanding about that how you can host your infrastructure on an AWS environment, right? Now this is how the labs look like, right? So when we are talking about AWS VPC actually, because we are going to build VPC infrastructure, what is virtual private cloud actually? How does that matter? So when we talk about VPC in AWS, particularly we are talking about on private network inside AWS. Like you will have your own private infrastructure inside your AWS account, where you can launch resources like EC2, RDS, Lambda, security, security, and whatnot actually. It allows you to control your IP ranges, subnets, routings, firewalls, and all, right? And you can also decide which resources are publicly accessible and which resources needs to be preserved privately, that it should not be accessible from the outside. So you can say like VPC, your cloud data center, which you can customize according to your need, right? Now we understand the basic of cloud now, okay? So this is the lab series where we would need to create Amazon VPC in a region, and then create a public subnet, private subnet, create an internet gateway, route internet traffic into public subnet to internet gateway, then create a public security group which will create launch Amazon EC2 instances into public subnet, connect public instances to HTTP, then connect the Amazon EC2 instances in the public subnet through session manager, create NAT gateway, create security group for private, and so on. So whatever we did for public group, same we will be doing for the private, but little bit there will be changes, because again the public is accessible for anyone, and like when we talk about private, it is accessible in this environment only, right? So now this is how the labs look like, okay? Just a moment. So now you have a lab over here, right? So now in this lab, what are the things that we need to do? First and foremost, we talk about what we need to do is to create a lab, create a virtual private cloud, right? VPC. In what region? You can see again, you have to make sure region you are choosing, it should be similar to the lab. Now you can see that here the lab is US based, right? And which is I have chosen US based 2 only, right? Now it is aligning with their requirement. So what we need to do now, first I need to create the VPC. In the previous session I have told you how to mark it over here, so I'm not going to just go to the manual process, search it. I'll just click over here, and once I click on VPC, it will redirect me to the VPC console, where there I can create a VPC, right? So now let me just go ahead and copy the name from here. So it won't be lab VPC. I'm gonna name it lab VPC, right? Let it load it once. Okay. This is how the VPC console looks like, and here we have something called create VPC, or here we have your VPC. Click on your VPC. You should not create VPC from here, but you should go for your VPC, and from here create your VPC, virtual private network. Now you have to make it as a VPC only if it is VPC and more. Okay. Name tag. What name we have? Lab VPC. Okay. Now we have IP range for this, and if we go back in the lab, I have to choose this IPv4 CDIIR, and the range I have to give over here. Just a moment. Okay. Now you might have one question, okay? That just a moment. We have chosen IPv4, and name tag, we have provided lab VPC, an IP, and the name is this, and let's just create it. Okay, so now we have created our VPC, virtual private cloud. Next, what we need to do? The status, it is available. That means we have successfully created our group. Next, what we need to do? Let's get back to our actions, and then we need to go for VPC setting. Once we get inside a VPC setting, we would need to you will find DNS will be enabled, but you would also need to enable DNS hostname, right? And then just save it. Okay, so once it has been saved successfully, once the DNS setting is set up successfully, we can go for creating public subnet and private subnet. For that, we just need to do subnet. In VPC, we will be playing with your VPC subnet routing, internet traffic, and security group. Now, you can find we do not have anything over here, public or private VPC. We just go and click on this. Okay, get the name public VPC from here, public subnet. Select the VPC that we have created. Name it subnet, availability zone. We have to go for the first one, and now here you might have one question actually. Okay, you can see I have a range, and now I have given the subnet range to CDIF 14. Okay, I mean here this is your VPC address, right? And when we talk about 24 actually, okay, this gives you only 256 IP address, 256 IP address, right? Because when it gives you 256 IP address, that is too small for entire VPC, right? And we are going for a public IPs, right? So we would keep it as a 24. When we are going for a private IPs, then we would increase it, because in the internal network we might to have a more and more system, right? Now, because you need to remember this. Once we did it, just create subnet. Okay, now we created a public subnet. Once we created the public subnet, we need to make sure the subnet is working. Now let's click on this. Just a moment. Action. Edit. And once we go here, we have to enable the auto assign public IPv4 address, because as if this is a public IP, it should get assigned a DNS every certain time, a record actually. Okay, just a moment. No, we not need to go for RBN, resource base, and then just save it. Now uncheck it, create one more time. Now select again this lab. Now we need to select this private IP, private subnet, availability zone. It will be W base 2A only, and the IP will be this range. Now you might have one question. Okay, see, when we talk about the VPC has a range of 16, right, which includes a 10.0 and so on IP address, right? But the subnet that we just created, okay, over here using 10.0.2.0/23, it gives you a range, okay, that for suppose private resources scale more database, application servers, containers, and usually private subnets need more and more IPs, okay. As if it needs more and more IPs, high availability across areas, sometimes you need to spread work over multiple availability zones, right? So you would need more IP. So how we can assign the more IP? So for future growth, /23 ensure you won't run out of IPs, because when you use 10.0.2.0/23, you are giving a range. You are giving a range of 10.0.2.0 to 10.0.3.0. Okay. the 3.255 actually. So this is the range you are giving. That means you are giving the much more range of. It is not limited to 240 or like a 255 or a domain or like a IPs, but you can have more and more IPs. So instead of giving /24, which gives you 256 IP, we go for /23 because it increases the range, right? And you can have 512 IP. Just see when you like if I give over here, just see, if I give over here 256, right, and if I give 23, I am getting 512 IPs. So that is the difference, okay, between private IP and public IP, because in internal network we need more IPs created. Now once we create our private IPs, then we have to create the internet gateway. Actually we need to create a internet gateway. So basically what the internet gateway is doing over here, like we created a public IP and private IP, but if you can see, it is still not connected. It is still not connected to any network. No one can ping, no one can access this. So we would need to give our gateway to this public and public IP and then route this traffic. Okay. So now what we need to do is to create the internet gateway. So here we have something called internet gateway. Once we get inside this, we have create internet gateway. So we will click on this. We can just name it lab internet gateway like this and just create it. Nothing more. Now we just created an internet gateway for this, and once we created, we got it. Now we have something called action. Once we create the gateway, we would need to attach this to like a VPC, right? So let's click over here, attach VPC, select VPC. What VPC? That we created one, lab VPC. Once we attach this, attach internet gateway. Now even after we have attached the internet gateway to the VPC, still it will not be accessible because it is not like a traffic is not getting routed, right? So now we will need to perform the routing. So here we will get into route tables. Now there is a default route table ID is already existing, right? So all I need to do now is to create route table. Once I create a route table, I'll give a name. Probably let me just copy from here, public route table. So just name it. Once I name it, I have to select a VPC, virtual private cloud, that we have created. I select it from here and then just create a table. Okay. Now we created a table. Here in routes, we have a destination IP range, and at this point of time it is local, destination is active. Let's get into edit route actually. Once we get into this, I would need to add a route. For this, I will be giving a range of IP. Once I give an IP over here, then select it, internet gateway, connect this gateway to the lab, virtual private cloud, and then save changes. Now we have created our we have routed the network as well. Now we need to create the security groups for this. Obviously, even security is important, right? So now we will get into this and create a security. Okay. One second. We have subnets. Am I missing something over here? You would need to edit routes, add a route and configure target route shapes. Then to the subnet association tab, subnet association. Okay. Now subnet settings. We have already enabled it. Save. Just scroll it up. We have created our two subnet association, which is public and private. Edit subnet association. Now we need to select only public IR subnet that we are focusing on. Save this. Okay. Now we would be focusing only on this public subnets, and once we are done with this, then we will be moving towards this private subnet actually, right? Now let's get back to our security group, which is here. Create a security group. I would need to, let me just copy instead naming public security group, right? Description: allow all incoming traffic. Just copy. Obviously I would not need to go for the default VPC. Add inbound rules. I would need to go for the HTTP, because obviously in real environment we would need to select HTTPS, but as if it is a lab environment we would go for HTTP only. Sources anywhere IP address, and then it is done. Now tab, we would need to choose name, value, public is, let me copy from here. Okay, so now we have put the required details which is needed. Okay, cool. Create a security group. Now it has created a security group. We have almost done with the creation of public IP and connecting it to the external network, right? Now we would need to launch the EC2 instances actually. For this, what we would do, just click over here, EC2. It will give us a EC2 management console, where there we would need to give inside the instances. So just launch, let it load. So let's launch this instance. Let me get the name from here. Public instance. Obviously I would need to go for this Amazon Linux only, and the version should be the latest one, which is Amazon Linux 2023 kernel 6.1 AMI. If it is selected someone else, you would need to select it, right? And it is also correct actually. Key name here, proceed without here, select edit. Default we not need to choose lab. Change private to public, because now we are working on public. It should be enabled. Select existing. Select common security group. It should be public SG. We have to get into advanced. IAM select. State instances. Copy the code from here. Paste it. Launch the instance. Okay. Now, as soon as we have launched the instance, just get into view all instances. Now it will take probably 1 or 2 minutes to show us green for status check. Till the time it is not showing the status check is okay, like 3 out of 3, all the status check has been done, we cannot process, or else if we process it will give us an error, right? Let's wait for a while. We are back now. So it almost take 4 to 5 minutes to checks all the checks, and we got 3 out of 3 checks confirmed, and it is okay, right? So now we would need to select this, get into this networking. Here we have IPv4, right? I just want to see if this IP is publicly accessible or not. So I'll just go ahead and paste it. Again, I told you guys that it was meant to be a HTTP only, not HTTPS. Therefore, we got that error. Okay, it's working, and that's a good news. Now, once we see that it is working and it is giving us, so now we will need to connect it to the instances and see if it is working or not. So let's just click on connect, and we have got the session manager connect. If there were any misconfiguration, we would have not got that. Okay, click on connect, and once we click on this, we will get the AWS CLI console, where there we can perform the command based things actually. Now we would need to see how it is responding to curl requests. Okay, just wait till it's loading. Paste it. Okay, cool. We have got the 200 responses, which is pretty good. It is just going as we expected. Now we would need to create a NAT gateway to configure routing in public private subnet actually. Till now we have configured the public subnet to access it from the outside of the network, and it is pretty good. Now we would need to configure it for the public private subnet, and how we gonna do that? The similar way, first we need to terminate this. Okay, we have here VPC, get into VPC, copy the name, here we have NAT gateways. Click on this, create NAT gateway, name it subnet. Are we using private subnet? Obviously you can see this, we are getting for what? Private subnet. So we would need to choose the private subnet from here, right? Select subnet private or opt-out. Okay, just a moment. Okay, let's do this public. 1 second. Hit NAT gateway and configure routing in private subnet. So in the left, choose NAT gateway and configure the following. Select public subnet from the drop down elastic application location. Okay, so just allocate this elastic IP. It has been allocated, and then just save it and create a NAT gateway. It was a mistake. Okay, so now we have created our NAT gateways actually, and which is pretty good. So once we create this, we would need to route this again. So we will get into route table, create. We have already created the public route table for this. Create route table from here, or you can say okay, there is only one route you can add. Create more routes. Okay, just a moment. copy the name, private route, select VPC and create it. Now we have created the routing for the private IP as well. Create routes, add, copy, let's copy the IP. Add the path, save. Now we have the traffic for NAT gateway for the private subnet as well. Now get into subnet. Here we have edit subnet. This time I have to select the private IP because we have already done it for public IP. Save association. Again, I would need to create a security group for private IP, private subnet IP. Create. Let me copy the name from here. Private. Allow incoming traffic to private instances from public security group. VPC should be that we created inbound rules. HTTP. Tags, name, the security group has been created. Now we would need to launch the EC2 instances. So again, I would need to get into this EC2. Launch the instances. It should be similar only. Here should be not recommended. Edit. It should not be default. It is by default private, then it is good. It should be disabled. Yes. If I'm not wrong, it should be disabled. Yes. Now select existing security group. The security group. From here, I will need to choose this private. Get into advanced setting. IAM instances. I will need to select for this EC2. Copy the code from here. Dash. Launch the instance. Click on view all instances. Again, it will take probably few couple of minutes. Let it be done. Let me refresh it. Seems it is, yeah, we got it, right? Now let's click on this private instances, select it and connect to it using session manager. Finally we have it. We are inside the session management cell actually. Now we will try to access this URL from an private subnet. paste it, and there you go. So now, including our private subnet and public subnet, we are able to access our resources. Okay, so this is about